As I mentioned earlier too, you've had some run-ins really with this administration because you have shown up. You've been as a member of the press, at some of these press gatherings, some of these events that he's done, and you have yourself become essentially a target of this administration. They know who you are, and they're not very fond of you. And, because you're out there and you're actually telling these stories, you're getting words out there. But I want you to tell all the listeners here, what's happened to you, throughout some of these events that you've attended here. Because I've seen it on Twitter, and I want everybody to know the real story of what's going on here.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I've been a long-standing critic of Ron DeSantis. Even before COVID, I just found that, his things that he's done, his pro-corporate legislation, he's been very anti-immigrant and has passed legislation that has enhanced the cooperation between federal immigration enforcement and municipalities here in the state. So a lot of the things that he pushes, I'm just vehemently opposed. But after COVID, obviously, DeSantis' extremism took a whole new turn, right? And in July of 2020, I attended a press conference where, I basically called out the governor for his extremely lackluster COVID response at the time and his, refusal to adopt any common sense public health measure. And basically, after trying to attend a future press conference in which I was detained in the parking lot without even attempting to go in, I found out the public records request that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has basically been keeping tabs on me. They've been monitoring my social media. They've been sharing my personal vehicle information with local law enforcement agencies whenever Ron DeSantis is in town. They've been sharing my information and pictures to entities that have hosted Ron DeSantis, like Florida International University, for example, and have basically barred me from all publicly funded, events by the governor's office, not his campaign, his public office. And it's just disturbing to see not his security detail, but, like Florida's top police agency, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, be weaponized against a critic. And in fact, they have a dossier that I actually have pinned on my Twitter profile of me, in which they track my political activities, my criticism of DeSantis. And they themselves in the dossier say, it's a quote, "This individual has no history of violence." But for some reason, I basically, treat it like a existential threat to the governor. But that's because he really enjoys having safe spaces to basically propagate his propaganda.
That is absolutely terrifying. I mean, all I can say about this Florida government is recently, about a month or so ago on Twitter, Christina Pushaw did end up following me. She has not yet interacted with me, and I found it very odd that she would just randomly start to follow me because I've never had any interactions with her on social media. So, I don't think by any stretch I'm clearly, hopefully not being detailed to the extent that they've done with you. But there's also Grant Stern has done some reporting on this as well about a possible enemies list from the DeSantis administration. So what do you know about that? I mean, that is pretty draconian here. I mean, that's Nixonian, really.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So on the dossier that I have pinned to my Twitter profile, people can, go check it out there, or maybe you can share it or something. But there is, we have several pages. One page is, the first page is this, detailing my political activities. There's other pages basically detailing tweets that I have sent out critical of DeSantis, and I track the metrics, how many times they've been viewed, how many times they've been shared. And there is a page that's basically a list divided into, I believe, 3 columns that say names, photos, and comments. It's completely blacked out, redacted. And the list is called associates, right? So it's basically associates of mine that are, involved in political activism, I guess, or criticism of the governor. that they are keeping tabs on, which is pretty egregious. On me, right? That I have to be worried that, you know, people that are close to me, I'm putting them, you know, in harm's way or in a compromising position, right, based on my political activism and theirs, but also on them, that, you know, are being surveilled to an extent solely on the basis of my association with me. And we're currently in the midst of preparing a federal lawsuit related to what we perceive as these First Amendment violations, and in which we hope to get the unredacted enemies list to see who exactly is on this list, and why do they merit being on, you know, an intelligence like document prepared by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And it's not just about me, right? Like, I don't want to say that I am that peculiar. My theory is that these type of dossiers are pretty common, right? And we just happened to stumble upon mine through, you know, this incident where I was detained in a parking lot without even attempting to go inside a Ron DeSantis event. You know, it made me question, how did they know who I was, that I parked here, you know, what my car was, like what prompted them to detain me? So through public records requests, we were able to obtain these documents. But I'm pretty sure that if they have one on me, they probably have a lot of these dossiers on activists. And it's just not right for police agencies or state agencies in Florida to be weaponized by the governor like this.
To get this full interview and access to the complete Ring of Fire podcast archives, sign up at rofpodcast.com and become a member.